Let's take a look at what makes a good spacing system and why I almost abandoned adaptive spacing altogether. For those who don't know, adaptive spacing is when we can apply a size once on desktop and have it automatically reduce on each lower breakpoint. The first key to a good spacing system is consistency. Sizes should shrink at a similar rate. So if we have 6 rem section spacing and a grid gap of 5 rem, then when our section spacing shrinks on mobile to 4 rem, the grid gap should still be smaller than that section spacing, just like it was on desktop. So here our grid gap shrunk to 4.5, but it didn't shrink enough. So now this gap is larger than our section spacing, making it look like the text and the image are in 2 separate sections. Which leads me to the second key of a good spacing system. It should work across any property, not just padding, but it should work with margin, gap, or anywhere else we'd want to use an adaptive spacing. So if I throw on my adaptive gap here and I just let it do its thing here on mobile, then we'll notice that this is now closer together than the section spacing itself. It makes this feel like a unit. But the problem here is this button is now closer to the image than it is to the rest of the text. So as long as we're using adaptive spacing, we would never run into this issue. So we can just throw in our space 3 for 3 rem adaptive space. And now when the space between the text and image shrinks, the space between the button and text shrinks even more. The third key to a good spacing system is having larger sizes shrink at a faster rate than smaller sizes. Here on mobile, some of our really small sizes aren't even shrinking at all. A mistake I made in one of my first spacing systems was having all spaces shrink to 75% their original size on tablet and 50% on mobile. It made the small sizes way too small and hard to work with, and I almost gave up on using adaptive spacing altogether. Here you'll notice anything above 10 rem is shrinking to half in its original size by the time we get to mobile. And some of these other sizes are shrinking to close to half their original size. Some of the really small ones are only shrinking to a fraction of their original size or even not shrinking at all. And we're always making sure that each size is larger than the one that came before it. The final key to a good spacing system is to give yourself more variation with the smaller sizes. So here we have a 2 pixel, 4 pixel, a 8 pixel, 12 pixel, 16, a 24, and a 32. So if we were to take out 1.5 and just jump from 16 to 32, that would be too large a jump in many cases, especially when dealing with small intricate things like a submenu. It helps to have this in-between size. Now, the more sizes we add, the less we can adapt to these larger sizes. So 2 rem on mobile shrinks to 1.75, but it can't go down to 1.5 because then it would be equal to the smaller size above it. So the more sizes we cram in, the less we can rely on that adaptive size. When we go to a difference between 4 and 5, that size is already so large to begin with that adding a 4.5 won't make much of a difference. And anything above 10, we can even start skipping and doing even numbers because the size is so large. Along with spacing, how we manage color is equally important. Check out this next video where I cover how to set up color variables in Webflow.